iPads, you know, a 7-inch tablet or bigger. So we'll go ahead and the purpose here is to draw the room that you're working in. We can come in here, like I created too many corners over here, so we'll take one of those out, jump back to pencil. I can grab these corners, I can square up my room. This is actually one of the few web-based tools that's easier to do on a tablet than it is on a computer screen. But so you make your room shape however it is, and you try to get your dimensions, or you try to get your ratios correctly, right? So then we click on our longest wall and set our first dimension. So I'm going to grab this one. We'll say that the longest wall in here is 12'8", and I will set this to be sheetrock flat. And it pops up and says, you know, do you want to set all the walls that don't have a surface type to sheetrock flat? So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And then it took the shape I drew and calculated out the rest of the walls. Now, of course, it's never going to be right the first try, you know, so you can drag these around. If you grab one of these corners, they'll get you some, like we could go and say, you know, it'll snap on 45. So you can change these however they need to be to make our dimensions correct. So let's say I wanted to do that. Now you can use these tools to add windows or doors based on whether your company uses that stuff, but the key is to put some water on our room. So I'm going to say it's wet along here, and it will use these where we've marked wet walls to create reading points to calculate square footage. I'll show you how some of that stuff works. So it says the name of this room, so we have to go to settings and put in a name and probably a height. So I'm going to say master bedroom, even though it's kind of a small bedroom. It's a 9-foot ceiling, and it is carpet because you want carpet in your bedroom. So then I'm going to go ahead and click and add another space. Let's say I'm going to add the bathroom now. We'll say the bathroom looks like this. We'll square up our corners, and we'll go about here and here. All right, so it's a big bathroom, right? So we'll say this was 8 foot. Let's say this was 7'9", and it is sheetrock gloss. Yes to all surface types. And this was about 4'6". All right, so there's our bathroom. And that's where the leak was to start with. So we'll say the bathroom is completely saturated. One of the kids came in there and left the sink on. I tell you, man, you can't leave them home at all. Master bath. Now, it's not carpet, but it remembered that from the last one. So we'll say it was vinyl. We'll click close, and then I'll go to assemble. Now, you could do this and build a whole chamber, right? A whole continuous airspace. And then we'll go and we'll do our layout. And if I remembered my dimensions right, this will at least somewhat line up. Whoops, I didn't mean to click save yet, but it's close enough. So it calculated the square footage, the linear feet, and all the cubic feet dimensions of these rooms. I want to go back to Sketch for a second and just show you there. I want to show you we could auto size, right? And if we needed to, we could come in and click on this and edit one of these rooms. We could flip them around if we needed to change the layout. There. All right. And we'll re-auto zoom, and then I'll click save. And it'll remember that layout. So, all right. So we'll come back in here. And so now we're ready to start putting equipment on the job and start putting readings in. And in fact, you'll notice we have a big orange button that says equipment recommendations to let us know that the equipment is mismatched. So we'll go to equipment recommendations. And I can even, so it's saying we need 1 DHU, 1 air scrubber, and 5 wall fans in this space. And if I click show calculations, we'll come in here and it shows the formulas that it used to derive based on this legend here, right? If you're familiar with the ICRCS 500, you'll probably recognize some of these numbers. Well, actually, probably most of the people even familiar with it don't actually know what these numbers mean. It's a relatively complicated standard. But you look like you're looking at that intently, so I'll stall for a moment while you read through that.
Yeah, oh, that's okay. Was reading the notes there underneath.
Okay. All right. So we'll come back to this a little bit, but basically we have 1, 1, and 5, right? So if I click on master bath, let's go to master bedroom, and we can see right away where my reading points are. If I click on wall 0, this is the wall that's highlighted here. There's no more guessing, like is wall 1 the wall to the left of the door when you moved in? As you roll through, the sketch will move around and highlight the wall you should be collecting your reading from. So we're not going to get confused about that kind of stuff anymore.
Steve, did you see that?
If we go to the equipment,
did you see where that was happening? Because it was moving a little. Yeah. The Zoom was jumping a little bit on. He was a little ahead of what I was seeing in the transition on the Zoom. So it just highlights that wall, which really kind of gives a good indication for those technicians. The goal being that when we add, our technicians don't have to be technically savvy, and they don't have to be really fully educated in the whole process. We're going to try to walk them through everything they need to do.
Right.
okay. So then we'll go to the equipment. Now, if there was equipment on this job, it would add more readings down here. But right now, that's all the data we have to collect on this particular room. So now it's time to sling some fans. So I'll go to equipment, and it tells us right here we just need 2 wall fans in this room based on linear feet. Now, we probably would need more based on the corners. So there might be an exception in this room. But so we'll come in here and type in like part of the serial number or part of the item number from the fan I have sitting next to me. If you're using the app, we can actually put QR codes on the equipment, and you can scan which specific fan is physically there. But in this case, we have some fans that are on other jobs, so I'm not going to mess with them. So I'll grab fan 101, and I'll put it like right here. Now, for the record, I'm not a drying technician, so this fan placement is purely magical, right? It's not rational. But our Phoenix fans have an hour meter on them, so we've taught the system to go ahead and collect the hour meter off of there, and we'll save that. And so that way, if we go back, I'm going to jump back here to reading history. You'll have a history of the hours on a particular piece of equipment, so you can see how much, why did it take 5 days to dry? Well, because the equipment's only running 12 hours a day, so clearly the homeowner is turning it off, as an example. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this next fan, and I'm going to put it like right here. And we'll put the hour meter on that one too. And I'll click save. Now, while the master bathroom is wetter, so I'll probably put the DHU in there, but I do want to put the air scrubber in the master bedroom. So I'm going to grab the serial number off our air scrubber. I'm going to drop it like right here. All right, so you can kind of see what's going on again with the hour meter, because the Phoenix air scrubbers have that. We'll put that in. And then I can close this, and I'll go to the master bath next, and I'll go to equipment. So now I need 3 wall fans, and I know I still need a DHU. So I'll click F again. And now we can see these ones are green because they're on the same job. They're just in another room. I could grab this one off the Mirage and place it here, and it'll ask me to confirm that I'm actually meaning to move it, right? So I'll do that, and we'll just do our hour meters again. I'll place all 3 fans. I don't know if this is right. Just, big disclaimer here. And here. That looks like a circle to me. All right, so my fans are placed properly now. And so now I'm going to grab a DHU. And this is where the real cool stuff kicks in. So I'm going to throw my DHU down right there. Now the DHU, of course, has a lot more that we need to collect in the way of metrics. So we have our inlet temperature, let's say, is 82 degrees, and the relative humidity is 35. It auto-calculated GPP for me. Now, this is not just a standard GPP calculation. It actually takes into account atmospheric pressure at the site, given as close as we can measure it. So it'll vary a titch from all your little standard Android apps, but it is technically more accurate. So we'll go and put our hour meter in off the DHU, and then our DHU outlet, let's say, is putting out 9530. That would be a terrible, terrible DHU reading. So I'm going to just say, let's say we were only getting 57 out of it. It's still not a good reading. right? It's going to be wrong. So I'll click and save that. And it's going to pop an alert for me and say, this was not an acceptable reading based on what the DHU should be able to produce between 19 and 29 GBP grain depression, there's the term, based on the temperature of that room. That's what Phoenix says it should be able to do. So I'm going to acknowledge this alarm, and then I'm going to fix whatever the problem was, right? It was in defrost mode, it was whatever was going on. And then I'm going to go back to reading history, and I'm going to change this. So now the relative humidity is 13, and we'll click save. And then because I saved a reading that was bad, I'm going to go back over here to the dashboard. I'm going to have my reading right here, and I'm just going to put a note on here. DU was in defrost mode when I took my first reading. And I'll click save. And so then we've created a comment on that event. So now your project manager doesn't necessarily even need to be on site. He can be watching what's going on, maybe across multiple jobs at the same time as this data is collected. So if we come back to drawing, we'll go back to our main floor here. And now my equipment matches. My rooms are white because there's no alarms. Everything looks legit. I need to collect some outside control, inside unaffected. So let's say inside of the rest of the house is 7235, and my AC outlet is 5813. Let's say 23. It's still really dry. Well, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to click save. So we'll start to collect these readings by timestamp, right? You can see what's going on. And eventually, once you've collected enough data, you'll be able to go to a performance report and have we can collect some graphs in here, psychrometrics. You can see some of the raw data that's been collected. You'll have performance charts coming out of this based off the equipment that was on the job. So our goal here is to create, a very rational report of what's going on at the job based off the data that they entered. So fan readings, here, as you can see here, we have outside control, inside unaffected, AC outlet, and the readings from that particular DU. So that's the kind of stuff that we're working on in here. And you just be able to come in here the next day and put in your readings, put your reading points in. And then when you get to the point when your job is done, we can click pull equipment. And in this particular case, we have a list of equipment that's on the job and reading points that are still wet. So we have not gotten this room dry. But if I go ahead and click remove all, maybe the customer refused service or something like that, I can still remove the equipment, but it wants me to put a note on why we're pulling it before it's dry. The goal being to get your technicians to get out there and either take that final reading or make sure we didn't miss anything, and they have a list of stuff that they need to be pulling back in. So customer refused service, right? So we'll click save. And as we've progressed through this, the system is doing a wide variety of things. I moved past it, so I can't show you, but ES for a while was a status equipment. So you'd be able to see from the job board where equipment is deployed. We have certain tasks that can be completed. Here you'll notice that I pulled equipment before it was dry, and it tagged that I pulled equipment from the job and from each chamber and from the job. So if there were multiple chambers, you could pull it just by chamber, or you could pull it from the entire job. So again, creating that log of what's going on, the documentation of how you're getting through it. Should we go into the budget tools too, you think, Clint? Or Steve, are you interested in seeing what the budget can do with Xactimate estimates and stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So we have our job here, and it just has ES and structure clean. I'll just run with that. So right now there's nothing on here, right? The budget's just standard. It's pre-filled with a couple categories, and these are, again, customizable by company. But first thing we're going to do generally is you're going to be capturing documentation. You're going to be like, let's say you want a job cost fuel. So you can come in here, you guys buy gas on the company card. So we'll come in here and we'll say they spent that on a WEX card or something like that, right? So we'll say credit card. This works exactly the same on the phone. Let me close this just for a second and show you. So if I were to pull this down to an iPad, or even down to a cell phone size. It's unhappy with me, right? There we go. So on a cell phone, right, we see a reduced amount of information. So if I click plus and I want to upload a credit card because I just bought gas and it was for structure cleaning and it was fuel, and maybe I spent $35 on fuel, I could upload photo. Now, if I was on an Android device or an iOS device, it would pop up and ask me, to use my camera if I wanted. So I'll upload a photo from when I was at some FCC labs. Not related. This is just an old photo. So what it'll do is it uploads it. It asks you to make sure it's legit, right? You took the photo of what you wanted. It wasn't too blurry. We'll click done. And so now that creates just that the document was saved. So then when I go big, then we can come in here to structure clean, and we can see now that I've spent $35 in-house. I have no estimated amount, so I'm over budget by $35 on this particular line item. And that's going to be pretty common at the beginning of a job, right? You went out and you bought plywood. You had to tarp up the house, so there's some in-house labor. You do all that stuff before you build the estimate. So then I'm going to go ahead and add an estimate. So a little bit down the road, we have one now. And I should have in downloads estimates, and I will grab this rebuild estimate because it's big, and big is always more impressive in these things. So we upload the Xactimate here, and my system will actually read the PDF. We are not uploading anything special. It's just the PDF that comes out of the estimate. And then we target the recap by category. We read this data in. So I'll click accept. And so now I have this pending estimate here. The goal being, like, if you have a person dedicated to building your estimates, they're going to build it and upload it, and then your project manager is going to come back and review it and make sure it looks right. That has the right linear feet of cabinet and the right amount of paint that needs to be done. And so then if we needed to edit it, we could click the pencil and edit here. We could click on the picture and actually open the PDF because it's just a document on the system. And so what I end up doing is I read in all of these line items, and then I will also read in this recap by category, and I'll show you how that works, what we do with that. If your project manager doesn't like something that's in it, he comes in here and he can click edit. And we will read these line items in, categorized by room, and you could come in and add a new line item. You could edit one of the existing line items. Maybe it wasn't 10, maybe it was just supposed to be 9 hours. You can work your way through this stuff and create a series of edits. Now, we're not actually editing the PDF. What we end up doing is giving the editor, your Xactimate person, Xactimator, is that a word? They have the ability to come in here and click only edits, and in this case, there's none. So, but you could, they can come in and see what needs to be fixed. They could update the estimate and basically, again, document that internal communication. Now, I don't want to do any of that. I want to approve this estimate. We'll pretend it was perfect the first try. So I'll just click normal import. Again, it will take it, it'll read it in, and it will make my budget match what was in that estimate. Then it takes in your overhead and profit calculations and your target margins and tells you how much money you have to spend on each category. So now your rebuild manager knows what numbers he needs to be hitting. Does that make sense right in there, what we're looking at?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. So if you need to be, let's say you want to run something, you run different numbers, right? Maybe you want to modify overhead and profit on this budget to be 5 and 5 because you're generous. And so we'll click save, and these numbers will update, and it'll be set for this budget. So you have some defaults that are set for your company. You tell us, again, what you want to do, and we bend the system to match how your business operates. And so now your guys can be going through this process and uploading incoming invoices. They could be uploading bids, which would be linked invoices later when you actually get them. They can spend money on petty cash. A petty cash expense is one that just needs to be approved. for your accounting people. So maybe they're spending money out of their pocket and getting paid back or something like that. It's, something that needs to be approved. So, and then payments can be recorded in here as well. This whole process rolls in here and really kind of gives you a summary of what's going on for the job here. So remaining funds, actual costs, we've received no payments, we're owed this much money based on the estimates. And this would just summarize them, allow you to see what's going on, and you would have, your ES, your structure clean, your mold, your structure repair, whatever stuff your company specializes in. So, and then of course, back on the news feed, everything is logged. So we have, we also have a dispatch tool.
Hang on just one second.
Yeah, what you got?
On my screen, I'm still showing the budget for the test demo. I'm not seeing did you go back to the home screen to show it was logged?
I just clicked on summary. I should be on summary right now.
Okay, I thought you were saying that back on the home screen it's all logged, so I thought you clicked for the home screen and my Zoom meeting wasn't keeping up with you.
There we go. So you should see now the newsfeed for the job. You approved this estimate, Xactimate estimate uploaded. You can see again who's doing what. One of the other cool tools that we have, it was originally targeted for the plumbing industry, but we found it's had a wide variety of people are interested in it, is the dispatch tool. The goal here is to be able to track where employees are and in relation to what's going on. So this is, for example, where Clint was when he interacted with the system last. So I could click here and see that was 5 days ago. Also just click on his name over here, see where he is. This is where I interacted with the system less than 1 minute ago. You can see my name on there nice and clear. We can look at calendar for today. If I had any appointments scheduled for today, they would show up on here. You could interact with those appointments. You could actually click a link and this will take us right to that staff member's calendar for the week, where we can zoom out and look at it for the month. So I don't have much going on for the rest of this month, right? So then we have a scheduler tool, and this is actually where we start leveraging some of the cool stuff that Google gives us. So let's say I'm going to try and schedule myself an appointment, fire lead at this Aramco job. I'm going to select myself. I'm going to try and do it today for a 60-minute appointment. I'm going to search availability. And so the goal here is to look at where you've been when you interacted with the system and drive time, those kinds of things. So I'm going to click schedule before it give it to me at 1 o'clock, right? And so if I try to schedule myself another appointment, let's say in Amarillo for another fire lead, which is 5 hours away. Steve, where are you at physically? I don't remember.
I'm out in, I'm east of San Francisco in Dublin, California.
Okay. All right. So we're trying to pull in the Google's drive time stuff. Mm-hmm. And so like here, it said, in theory, I could make it here based off of the duration of the appointment. That's not really real because the demo system is not fully integrated yet. But so I don't have any appointments I can make today because it's a 5-hour drive. And you can see right here, I have a 1 o'clock for 60 minutes. It's 5 hours away. So I couldn't make that appointment. So I'd switch to tomorrow and I could be there in the morning. And then if I tried to do the same thing and schedule myself an appointment tomorrow back in Dallas, it wouldn't let me have it till 2:30 because I was in Amarillo 5 hours away at 8 o'clock in the morning. So the goal of this tool is to get you making appointments that you can physically do with the drives of what's going on, and to look at your appointments that you have and where you are when you interacted with the system last, and get you on site in an effective fashion. We can do some cool stuff like if we go to projects and show all projects, we can look at where our jobs are in the map. We can interact with them. So test project demo, right? I can see some details of what's going on here. So this Aramco job, I could make it at 11:45. I thought it was further away than that, but I'm real close to that. So if you have a lot of data, right? Like you'll end up with a lot of stuff going on here. Here's a Candlewood Suites job. We can go ahead and open this job right from here and interact with it. So a lot of cool stuff as we start to tie in what's going on with the dispatch tool. And then the next step of this is time card. We'll be able to not just track where your employees are, but we'll be able to geofence a job. So you're going to be able to go as a project manager to go up to our app drawer here, select time cards, and then go and pick an employee. And basically what you'll see is a series of columns. You'll have columns. This column is what they did, right? They got to the office, they checked in at this job, they left the office. You'll see their manual events. And then next to that will be auto events. You'll be able to tell when they physically got to the office if they're running the app. So we update location every 15 minutes during normal business hours for the time that you say an employee normally works. And then we'll be able to do some drive time calculations. The goal being that you will be able to job cost not just when your employees were on site, but potentially drive time too. So you'll say, well, okay, you left the office at 10 o'clock, got to the office at 10:45, got to a job at 10:45, was there for 2 hours. So we really are going to bill them 2 hours and 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. So that's where this dispatch tool is going. We have some pickup shifts. We have a new project wizard in here that helps jump right into scheduling appointments from this process. So a lot of cool stuff going on in this scheduling tool. And real excited about how that's going to roll into the time card tools as well. So there's your like 500-foot view. You know, it's not quite a 10,000-foot view, but we've skimmed the surface on a lot of stuff today. You have questions or things that you want to see? Maybe we can direct you to. We can look through the equipment manager or vendor managers, tracking insurance information. What's of interest to you?
No, I mean, my interest is from the angle of offering this as a tool to any of the contractors that that may be working with me and through me.
Yeah.
And
okay.
This is exactly the kind of thing that that I would see as obviously as beneficial, especially in the industry that we work in and the changes that are going to happen here over the next 5 or 10 years.
Right.
So now, I guess one question I had is, have you guys implemented this at all, or are you using this in any way, shape, or form there at Mr. Restore?
We've been using this. We've been using this for about 6 years. We've reconfigured it and restructured it numerous times. We're constantly developing it to put new things in. So what we've done and what we did was we knew we needed to create some digital processes to just make us more efficient. And then as we've implemented those, we've learned new things that we needed to do. And so we've built those in, right? So we didn't have a time card module before. We would just keep track of our time and guys would make notes about what's going on at the time. And so then we decided, let's make a legit time card into the system as well. And there's some other products out there that are doing some things that are similar to this. But we've made ours so that it really fits the industry and it's really intuitive to what our guys are already doing.
Right.
So then Mr. Restore's been using it for a long time. We've got several customers now throughout the country that are on the system. We've got some connections with some guys that are starting to really it's starting to really get some traction and take off. We've got us that are doing beta testing on it constantly, and we've got other guys that are using the live production system. So that includes, companies in Florida and several in Texas and Georgia, I guess, Alabama. There's just a few of them out there that are kind of walking through it. We launched it in April, Steve. We went to the Experience Conference, which is cleaning and restoration show. We launched it in April to go to that, and then we've since gone to Contractor Connection. So we've got some of those guys that are starting to hook up with us on that, and then we went to the Experience Conference, the second one of the year that's in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I was there.
And then we've got. Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Could have come seen us at that one. And We've gotten some connections with a couple of coalitions that are going on. Some guys that are, kind of dealing with, at some level, building their own vendor program, except they're using it so they can respond to larger losses, even though they're smaller companies, instead of being true vendors for the carrier. And so we've gotten quite a bit out there, and we're having a lot of success. And when we're showing it to people, the feedback is really incredible, right? Because some of them are on Client Runner or on Dash or on PSA or some of those that exist for the industry, and they all look at ours and they're like, man, you guys, it's so much easier to use what we've built. It makes sense, not forcing them to fit in a box. So we think we're onto something really good. From that perspective, we also know that, like, I'm a big fan of no connections are free, right? So from that perspective, we're interested in a revenue share type thing with yours. So if you've got 100 companies that you're working with and each one of them signs on with us, so our minimum amount is $150 a month. It's $30 per user per month with a minimum of 5 user license. And not that I don't want to help the guy that's just one person, but I don't really have the bandwidth to deal with one person on the setup and the customer service and all that for $30 a month, right? So we're doing, if he wants to come on, he can come on, but he's going to do it at 150. In that case, we do some like a 10% revenue share with you, then you make $1,500 a month for the introduction. And you make that as long as they're customers, for those guys that stay on. And so we want to do something like that with you if you think it makes sense. And that's the reason I wanted you to see the system, see what we're doing, what we're capable of, and then digest it and go, hey, is there something, would this work good for what I'm doing? Can I help my clients by making this introduction, and can it benefit me when I do that? And that's what we want to do.
Right.
And I want to throw in one more thing here. So we've recently, we're testing, we're in beta test stage on the ability to share jobs. So it'd be possible for you to have your own version of this system that you would basically create associations with your vendors in the vendor program, and you would offer them a job. You click a link. So inside the job, it's not turned on demo, so I can't show it to you. But right here in this space would be a chain link button. And when you click that, it would pull up a list of vendors on the right side that are qualified for this job. So you would put jobs in by type, fire, water, storm, or maybe it's mold, or the loss type, however you classify the jobs. Mm-hmm. And then you would associate these relationships based on what you think they're qualified to do. So maybe you have plumbers, right? Maybe you have restoration guys. However your vendor program looks, we would structure it that way. And then you would find people that service that zip code and have that work type. And you would extend to them an invitation. You say, this invite is good for 6 hours. And so when they would do that, when you did that, they would get an email, of course, letting them know there's a job, but then the job would show up in their list as an available job until they went in and accepted the invite. And you could give them terms and conditions and stuff like that. So then when they're interacting with the job, you get to see some of the details of what's going on in your partition. And we can adjust that a little bit. But now you don't even have to call them to see what's going on. You'll be able to click and open the job and see journal notes and see photos and documentation right in the system. They don't have to email you an estimate. You can come in and download it because you're automatically on their job.
So that's like what were you saying, like a referral type system where?
Yeah, we call it basically job sharing. You're sharing projects, but yeah, it's basically allows you to refer, for a vendor program. It was originally, the target was those smaller coalitions of companies that wanted to bring in multiple people with different specialties so they could tackle larger jobs. But it fits really well for like a vendor program type scenario as well.
Right. Okay. What's been so you guys have a number of different people that are using the system. What's been the feedback, I guess? You told me, the positive feedback. What's been the biggest challenge with those that are using this system?
Internet service primarily is the biggest challenge. So the expectation is, like, people lose sight of the fact that their iPhone doesn't work sometimes.
Right.
Can't get other apps to work, or they can't get the internet to work, and that sort of thing. And what we're trying to do, we're trying to document things, and when they're in the field, and if they struggle, like when I was in Florida, I went and did some training in Florida after Hurricane Matthew with some of our guys. And the app version is not 100% live yet. We've got it in beta. And so when you're out in an area and you've got one dot showing up on your phone and it flashes to no service and then back to one dot, and you're trying to document some things, that's a little bit of a struggle, right? It makes it cumbersome and a little frustrating when you can't get the service to work and you need that data to do what you're doing. So that's really the biggest struggle. It seems to me that everything that we have on the system functions really well when you're in an office on the Wi-Fi, and when you're out in Dallas, we don't have any issues. Like,
Right.
we load stuff. If you get into certain areas where there's a whole lot of cell signal usage, it's a little bogged down on loading some photos at times, but it all still pushes through and gets it knocked out, right? You get into some of those crazy weird areas and you hit the mountains in Colorado and there's no cell signal. You're in certain parts of Florida where there's not good cell signal at the time. It makes it a little bit more difficult. The app is fixing a lot of that because it doesn't have to have the service, but that's not 100% live. It will be shortly where they're going to be able to utilize that for the majority of what they're doing and be able to make that work. So that's the biggest challenge, honestly.
Okay.
Secondarily to that is making sure, because the training side has not been that difficult for these guys. It's relatively intuitive. They can kind of think through it, and we'll help walk them through it. And we've got videos that we've recorded so they can see a lot of it, and we still need to work on that. But it works pretty well. The second thing is the human element, right? Is people have to understand the value in now creating this documentation. So for your guys, they're going to see that. The clients that you're working with are going to see that in the fact that they're getting tagged for not having documentation on the vendor programs, right? So they're going to understand the value of documentation. If they can see the value in making that centralized and making their life more efficient in a system like this, then that negates kind of the second issue that we have, which is, some guys just, they don't want to spend time learning things. And you can't, you can, if you make their income contingent upon it, then you can make them do that. But it's difficult. And we've got, with Mr. Restore, I've got a couple of 60-year-old crotchety construction guys that are now using the system. But it's a little bit of a challenge to get them to do regular updates, load photos, because they're used to using a pen and paper and not documenting anything because they've been in the restoration industry for 30 years.
Yeah.
They never documented a thing before,
Right.
So when you run into those environments where guys have never sketched a house and actually calculated the amount of equipment or really documented their drawing reports or any of that kind of stuff, you put one of those companies on, it's a lot to start doing something. It's a lot to start doing all of that, period.
Right.
But not only now you're doing all of that, you're now doing it digitally. It's a little bit cumbersome. But those guys that realize that they're going to have that, they're pushing through it, and they're finding our system is really very friendly from that perspective.
Yeah. Okay. So this obviously is going to work in conjunction with Xactimate and Exact Analysis. Then it's another tool to be used. What's the feedback that you get on that? This system is a lot of, you're entering, it's documenting, it's user friendly, and then they're having to go in and document Exact Analysis as well. Do you get any negative feedback on that, or?
So we're working to get integrated fully with Xactimate and Exact Analysis. So we'll have to see how that works, right? The information that I've gotten back so far is what we're doing is different than what Exact Analysis actually is doing. So in some cases, we're going to start working on trying to push it in, even if the integration is not full, so that we can send, somehow through the system an email that would update Exact Analysis. But there's some cases, if they're doing the manage repair programs, there's going to be some duplicated work. If they're doing contractor connection, if they're doing Code Blue, if they're doing whatever else. I mean, there's several of them out there.
Yeah.
If they're doing those different programs, then they're going to have to duplicate their work in some capacities.
Right.
What we're showing them is this is a way for you to actually do your work more efficiently, even if you still have to redocument that back to another entity somewhere else. But then you're keeping all of your documentation centralized, whether it's an exact analysis job or a code blue job. You still have all of your data in one place. You don't have to dig for it in multiple locations.
Right. Okay. And you touched a little bit on the training. So when somebody signs up for this and you roll it out, typically what kind of what kind of training do you guys provide? Is it like a week's worth of stuff, or is it webcasts? Or because I know if I mention this to some of my contacts, they'll obviously. They're going to ask about that training and, what do I have to invest time wise? And
sure. So it's going to take a little, the way we built the system is these guys don't have the ability to sit down for a week and actually go through training specifically regarding this system.
Right.
And so our training is going to last significantly longer than a week.
Right.
But it's not going to be something that's going to require that they have to be online every day for an hour or 2 hours or sit in an office or come to Dallas or us come to them or any of those kind of things. The system works very much like what they're used to seeing on social media. So they'll be able to, day one, they'd be able to walk through and create a job and fill out the information and get some stuff started. There's some stuff where they'd have to get in the weeds that they're going to need us to hold their hand. Like when we start walking them through how do you actually sketch a system and how do you put jobs on a system, or put equipment on a job, that sort of thing. They're going to need to see that, and we'll walk them through that. So we've recorded some videos of some of that. We've got more we need to load, more we need to record to kind of get it where it needs to be for that aspect. But we're going to hold their hand. And so if they need to get on a webinar or we need to walk them through something, we can do that and make that happen for them. The process of signing up requires that we fill out a provisioning form, which will take them about 10 or 15 minutes for them to kind of tell us what do they do? Are they a carpet cleaning and water loss company? Are they fire and water company? Are they a contents only company? Are they mold and asbestos? What do they do? And that allows us to implement certain things, and then we can help hold their hand on what we have set up and what other customers have set up in regards to business processes, and then they can tweak those from there. So if they want, within 10 minutes, if they want the work authorization signed, then they can actually have that as a flag that pops up in 10 minutes from the job creation. If they want to wait 48 hours before they're worried about flagging for a work authorization sign, we can change that. And that just takes a little bit of time for them to know what they want when it can actually do that, and for us to help them get it where they need it to be. So they'll fill out a provisioning form, they'll play with the system for a while, in a couple of weeks we'll follow up with them and go, okay, what are you seeing? What do you think about what's currently set up? Would you like to change any of that? What changes would you like to make? And we just kind of walk them through that direction until we have it dialed in to exactly meet what their business processes are.
Uh-huh. So you guys have they'll have a line they can call if they're having technical.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have our 800 number. They can give us a shout and they'll catch one of the three of us and we'll set something up, and we might be able to walk them through an issue right there and help them get it done, just on the phone, or we may have to hook them up with a webinar and walk them through it that way.
Right. No, I really like.
We also have a support website with a knowledge base that they can search for. We trouble ticket system, the whole bit.
Okay. I remember, when we first met, Clint, you talking about this system where the customers can come in. I like that aspect of them being able to go look at photos, certain documents. Are customers able to interact in the sense that, hey, you missed something simple. Let's say you missed the closet that was attached to his bedroom. Nobody looked in the closet.
Correct.
I don't see it on the estimate. Can I upload a photo to show you the damage and then give you the measurements? Is that something that customers are able to interact on that end
There is some ability for customers to interact, including so what Mark was talking about in regards to assigning tasks and things of that nature, and someone would get an email. They're going to get the email about the system, and they can respond on it. So say they set up and they're getting a daily email, right? And they see a journal note and they see that something was commented and they want to respond to that comment. They can reply to the email, and that actually gets sent back to everybody that's associated with the job, so they can see all of it and get rolled into things. If they, like I had a customer just the other day on the Mr. Restore side, who actually took the scope from the adjuster and loaded the scope directly into the document section for us. He's like, hey, I walked through it. He signed his own work authorization from his computer because he walked through that process. And so there's ability for them to do some interaction. They have they're not going to see the tasks that are internal. They're not going to see budget documents and that sort of thing. So they're not going to interact on those, but the stuff that they're associated with, they can interact with for sure.
They can see the progression of the job.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Yeah.
Which I think is going to be just more and more important. As the years go on. I mean, you see it with vehicles already. You can take a picture and nobody has to come out, and you can get a check, and your estimate can be done. Without anybody taking a look at things, and I'm sure that's where this industry is going as well. So
sure.
No, I think it's great. I definitely will mention this to the clients I have as a possible because I mean, a lot of them have mentioned Dash and some of these other things that they are involved in, and I also I've got a contact that has kind of taken me under his wing as a consultant. I don't know if you've ever heard of Les Cunningham with Business Networks.
I've heard Business Networks.
Yeah, Les Cunningham, he's, I think, 70-some years old, but he's been doing it for about 45 years.
Okay.
And he's very well respected, and he's got a core group of probably 200 to 300 contractors that continue to use him.
Okay.
And some that have used him for 15, 25, years.
Okay.
So anyway, I think I'll mention this to him and as well.
Okay.
Because it's one of those, he scratches my back, I scratch his. And he's all about, helping people out and that kind of thing. So
perfect.
And he's the kind of guy that would tell you, I don't want your revenue share. I want you to pass that revenue share on to my customers.
Awesome.
And give them that discount. I don't need the money.
Okay.
So anyway, next time I see him, I'm going to mention your name.
Okay. Perfect.
Can you send me direct me to any kind of a marketing? If you guys have a website or any kind of marketing material that I can get familiar with, and take a look at as well.
We do. We've got a couple of things that I'll probably have Cindy follow up with you on that. We'll get you the website link. We'll get you some of the digital copies of some of the marketing pieces that we've kind of put together. Maybe some of the ads that we've run through, like Clean Facts Magazine and some of the other stuff, so you can see that as well. And get some of this just shot over to you.
Okay, very good. Have you guys run any ads in that R&R magazine at all?
We haven't done R&R yet. I've had some conversations with them, and it looks like we're probably going to run some pretty quickly. We've done Clean Facts. We've done some email campaign stuff. We've done some of the different trade shows, and it's just a matter of trying to get it out there first.
Right.
R&R we need to get done for sure.
Okay, very good. No, I appreciate it, and
thank you.
Yeah, and I'll do what I can to. This would be great for me just to kind of have in my back pocket, especially since I know you.
Yeah.
Whereas, some of these other companies I don't have a relationship with. So,
Sure.
So for me, this kind of a partnership makes sense. And I'll see what I can do we'll see how my sales skills are.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You don't have to worry. I don't want you to worry about that thing. Make the introduction. We'll make the sell. We'll show them the demo. We'll do the close for them. You just tell them you've seen it and you like it and you think it's cool and you want to see if they're interested.
Yeah, exactly. So very good.
Yeah, man. I'll get some stuff to you. I'll have Cindy follow up with you and we'll go from there.